The emergency lights painted everything red inside the council chamber. Ambassador Trell watched the holographic display with growing dread as another colony world went dark. That made 17 dead worlds in just 3 weeks. The mechanical swarm they called the Harvesters had appeared from deep space without warning, and nothing could stop them. "We must consider all options," Trell said, his 4 hands gripping the edge of his console. Around the circular room, representatives from 40 different species murmured in various languages. Fear smelled the same in all of them. High Chancellor Vrim rose from his elevated seat, his crystalline skin reflecting the red emergency lighting. "Our combined fleets have failed. The hegemony worlds are requesting immediate evacuation. We have perhaps 5 days before the swarm reaches the inner colonies." "What about the outer species?" someone called out. "The ones who rarely attend council meetings?" Trell felt his throat sacs tighten. He knew what he had to suggest, even though the others would mock him for it. "There is Earth." The chamber fell silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then the laughter began. "The humans?" Chancellor Vrim's voice dripped with contempt. "The species that barely passed first contact protocols? They shoot metal slugs at each other, Trell. Metal slugs. They have no shield technology, no plasma weapons, nothing that would help us. They have ships," Trell insisted, "and they have fought wars before. Against themselves," Representative Quinn added sadly. Her people were farmers, gentle souls who had never known violence until the Harvesters came. "I read their history files. They nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times. What good are warriors who cannot even keep peace among their own kind?" Trell pulled up Earth's file on his personal screen. The data was sparse. Humanity had stumbled into faster-than-light travel almost by accident during a test flight. The Council had discovered them and offered membership mainly to prevent them from blowing themselves up. Earth had accepted but remained distant, building colonies far from Council space and rarely participating in galactic affairs. "They pay their membership dues," Trell said weakly. "They attend the minimum required sessions. They have never asked for our help or offered interference in our matters." "Because they have nothing to offer," Vrim said. "But very well. If you wish to embarrass yourself by asking primitives for military aid, go ahead. Send a distress call. Perhaps they will send us some of their kinetic weapons." More laughter rippled through the chamber. Trell composed the message himself. It was standard protocol, explaining the threat and requesting any available military support. He included coordinates of the most threatened systems and a timeline of the Harvester advancement. Then he transmitted it toward human space and waited. The response arrived in 4 hours. Trell stared at his screen in confusion. The entire message was a single word: coordinates. He read it 3 more times, certain there must be more data attached. There was nothing else, just that one word in plain text. "Well," Vrim asked impatiently, "what do the humans say?" "They are asking for coordinates," Trell said. "We sent them coordinates." "Did they not receive the full transmission?" "I believe they did, Chancellor. Perhaps they want confirmation of which systems need defending first." Vrim made a dismissive gesture with his upper appendages. "Send them the list again. Make it simple enough for them to understand. Though I doubt they have more than a dozen ships to spare." Trell sent a new message with detailed coordinates of the 3 most critical systems, along with population counts and defensive capabilities. He marked it as urgent priority and waited again. This time the response took 8 hours. When it arrived, Trell felt his blood chill despite the warm chamber. "Evacuation protocols. 72 hours." He read it out loud to the Council. Representative Quinn looked hopeful. "They're offering to evacuate civilians? That is generous, even if they cannot fight. How many can they possibly evacuate?" Another representative asked. "Their ships are small according to our scans. Perhaps a few thousand per vessel?" Trell was already checking the calculations. If Earth sent every civilian transport they had on record, they might save a few 100,000 people. It was better than nothing, but nowhere near enough. Billions would die. "Send them confirmation," Vrim ordered. "Tell them to focus evacuation efforts on Praxis 7. It has the largest population in the immediate threat zone. 3 billion civilians who cannot be moved by our own ships in time. Trell sent the acknowledgement and included detailed information about Praxis 7's spaceport facilities. Then he did something he had been avoiding. He accessed the restricted human files, the ones that required special clearance. What he found made him question everything he thought he knew about Earth. The humans had fought a global war with nuclear weapons. Not once, but almost 3 times. They had developed biological weapons capable of ending their entire species. They had burned their own cities and poisoned their own atmosphere in conflicts that killed millions. And somehow, they had survived all of it and reached for the stars anyway. There was a note in the file from the first contact team. Recommend observation protocol. Species shows extreme aggression coupled with remarkable adaptability. Suggest integration into Council to prevent potential threat development. Earth had not been invited to join the Council out of kindness. They had been brought in to keep them controlled. Trell was still reading when the long-range sensors detected something at the edge of Council space. His screen lit up with warnings. Multiple faster-than-light signatures, moving at speeds that should have been impossible for ships of their size. Chancellor, Trell said quietly, we have incoming vessels from human space. How many? Vrim asked. 10, 20. Trell counted the signatures twice before answering. His voice barely worked. 340 warships, Chancellor, all of them bigger than anything in our fleet. They will reach Praxis 7 in 6 hours. The council chamber erupted in confusion. Representatives demanded information, explanations, tactical assessments. But Trell could only stare at the sensor data and wonder what they had actually summoned. The humans had not sent a rescue mission. They had sent an armada, and they were not slowing down. Trell had not slept in 30 hours. The human fleet was now 3 hours from Praxis 7, and he had spent every minute trying to understand what Earth had actually sent. The answer terrified him more than the harvesters did. Look at these ship classifications, he said to Representative Quinn, who had joined him in the research room. She was the only one who took his concerns seriously. The Council database has nothing like them. Quinn studied the sensor readings with her large eyes. They're so big. Why would anyone build warships that large? Our dreadnoughts are a quarter that size. That is not the concerning part, Trell said, pulling up comparative scans. Look at the armor plating. 3 meters thick in some sections. Solid metal alloys. No energy shielding at all. But that is primitive, Quinn said. Energy shields are standard technology. Even our cargo vessels have them. Exactly. Trell switched to another display. And their weapons. We detected railgun signatures. Magnetic accelerators firing solid projectiles. Like something from our ancestors' time. Then how do they expect to fight the harvesters? Quinn's voice rose with worry. The swarm adapts to any weapon system within minutes. Energy weapons become useless almost immediately. We learned that when we lost the first 5 worlds. Trell had been thinking about that for hours. What if that is exactly why Earth sent these ships? The harvesters adapt to advanced technology. But how do you adapt to a chunk of metal moving at a fraction of light speed? Before Quinn could answer, Chancellor Vrim entered the room. His crystalline features were dark with anger. Trell, the humans refuse to respond to our communications. We have sent 17 hails requesting tactical coordination. They ignore all of them. Perhaps they are focused on preparation, Trell suggested. Preparation for what? Suicide. Vrim pulled up a tactical display. The harvester swarm has already detected them. 3,000 mechanical units are converging on Praxis 7. The humans are outnumbered 10 to 1, and they continue to accelerate directly toward the planet. They're not even forming defensive positions. Trell checked the display himself. Vrim was right. The human fleet was moving in what appeared to be random patterns. No clear formation or strategy. It looked like chaos. I accessed more restricted files, Trell admitted quietly. Earth's military history. Chancellor, they fought wars on their planet for thousands of years before reaching space. We know this already, Vrim said impatiently. No, you do not understand. They fought wars where millions died. Entire cities destroyed. And they kept fighting. They have a saying in one of their old languages. It translates to something like, "The only way to guarantee peace is to be better at war than anyone else." Quinn made a soft sound of distress. "That is a terrible philosophy." "It kept them alive," Trell said. "Every other species in the Council went to space to escape violence. Humans went to space and brought violence with them. Because in their experience, the universe is not safe. It is not kind, and waiting for help means dying." The long-range sensors began chiming urgent warnings. All three of them turned to look at the main display. The human fleet had reached Praxis 7 and was spreading out in a sphere around the planet. The Harvester swarm was minutes away. "Give me a direct channel to their fleet commander," Vrim ordered. "I do not care if they want to talk or not. They will coordinate with our forces, or I will have them classified as hostile." It took 5 attempts before a human face appeared on the screen. She was older, with gray hair tied back severely and scars visible on her face. Her uniform was plain gray, with minimal insignia. When she spoke, her voice was flat and emotionless. "This is Admiral Peterson of Earth Fleet. State your message." Vrim drew himself up to his full height. "Admiral, I am High Chancellor Vrim of the Galactic Council. You are entering a combat zone without proper coordination. I demand you follow standard Council protocols and integrate with our defensive formations." Peterson stared at him for 3 long seconds. "No. Excuse me. Your defensive formations failed. Your weapons failed. Your strategies failed. 17 worlds are gone because you fought this enemy the wrong way. We will fight it our way. Your way." Vrim's voice cracked with outrage. "You have primitive weapons and no shields. You will be destroyed in minutes." "Maybe," Peterson said, "but the Harvesters will remember us. Stand clear of the combat zone, Chancellor. We will not be responsible for Council casualties." The transmission cut off before Vrim could respond. He turned to Trell with fury in his eyes. "Arrest her. Arrest all of them. This is insubordination." "With what ships?" Trell asked quietly. "Chancellor, our fleet is in retreat. The humans are all that stand between the Harvesters and 3 billion civilians. If we interfere now, everyone dies." On the tactical display, the first Harvester units entered weapons range. The human fleet did not fire. They continued their seemingly random movements, spreading out across the sphere. 500 kilometers from a planet. 400. 300. "Why are they not shooting?" Quinn whispered, then the Harvesters opened fire. Bright lances of energy cut across space, designed to overload shields and fry electronics. They hit the human ship's dead center, and nothing happened. The energy splashed across the thick armor plating like water on stone. Some of it scorched the metal black, but the ships kept moving. Then the humans fired back. Trell watched in stunned silence as thousands of projectiles erupted from the human fleet. Not elegant energy beams or plasma bursts, just solid metal moving impossibly fast. They tore through Harvester drones like paper, ripping them apart with pure kinetic force. The Harvesters began to adapt, shifting their hull configurations to deflect impacts. But the humans switched ammunition types. Explosive rounds, armor-piercing penetrators, fragmenting cluster munitions. Each type different, each type forcing the Harvesters to adapt again. And the humans kept getting closer. "They are ramming speed," Vrim said in horror. "They're going to ram the Harvesters." He was right. The human ships were not trying to fight at range. They were closing to point-blank distance, trading shots with an enemy that could tear them apart. Trell watched one human destroyer take a direct hit that carved a canyon through its hull. It did not retreat. It accelerated, firing until its reactor went critical and exploded, taking 20 Harvester units with it. "They are insane," Vrim whispered. "No," Trell said, unable to look away from the display. "They are committed. There is a difference." The battle had only just begun, and Trell already knew the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. The battle for Praxis 7 lasted 6 hours. Trell watched every minute of it from the safety of the Council observation ship, and what he witnessed would haunt him forever. The Harvesters were perfect killing machines. They learned from every attack, adapted to every weapon, evolved with each passing minute. Against the Council's energy-based arsenal, they had been unstoppable. But the humans did not fight like the Council fought. When a human tactic stopped working, they invented a new one instantly. When the harvesters adapted to explosive rounds, the humans switched to solid tungsten penetrators. When those became less effective, they fired nuclear-tipped missiles in swarms so dense that adaptation meant nothing. Trell watched a human cruiser split in half by a harvester cutting beam. The two pieces continued fighting independently, each section firing until their ammunition ran out. Then the forward section rammed the nearest harvester cluster, while the rear section used its dying reactor as a bomb. "How many have they lost?" Quinn asked beside him. Her voice shook. Trell checked the casualty reports. 73 ships destroyed. Another 91 damaged beyond combat capability. That is nearly half their fleet. And they have not retreated once. No, they have not. On the planet below, 3 billion civilians huddled in bunkers, listening to the sounds of war in orbit. The Council's ground forces had reported something strange. The human fleet was not just fighting randomly. They were forming a pattern, using their ships as living shields to protect specific orbital zones. Every time a harvester tried to break through to the planet's surface, human ships blocked them. Even crippled vessels with no weapons left positioned themselves as barriers. The message was clear. To reach the civilians below, the harvesters would have to go through every single human ship first. Chancellor Vrim had stopped making demands hours ago. Now he simply watched in silence as Earth's fleet methodically destroyed the harvester swarm. The mechanical invaders that had conquered 17 worlds were being beaten by ships that should not have stood a chance. "I do not understand," Vrim finally said. "The harvesters should have adapted completely by now. Why are the humans still effective?" Trell had been analyzing the battle data. Because humans do not fight logically. Look at this engagement here. He highlighted a section of the battle. 3 human destroyers versus 50 harvester drones. The logical strategy is to maintain distance and use superior firepower. Instead, the humans accelerated to ramming speed while firing every weapon they had. "That is suicide," Vrim said. "Yes, and that is exactly why it worked. The harvesters cannot predict suicide tactics because they serve no logical purpose. Their programming assumes all species value survival above victory. Do humans not value survival?" Trell thought about the files he had read, the history of a species that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times and kept fighting. "I think humans value victory more than they fear death, and that makes them more dangerous than any weapon." The tide of battle was turning. The harvester swarm, so confident at the start, began to retreat. For the first time since they had appeared in Council space, the mechanical horrors were falling back. The remaining human ships did not celebrate. They pursued. "What were they doing?" Quinn gasped. "The planet is safe. They won. Why chase the harvesters?" A communication channel opened before Trell could answer. Admiral Peterson appeared on screen. Her uniform was torn, and blood ran down the side of her face from a cut above her eye. Behind her, the bridge of her flagship was filled with smoke and emergency lighting. "Council observation ship, you need to clear this system immediately," she said. "Admiral, the battle is over," Vrim replied. "You should begin rescue operations for your damaged vessels. The battle is not over until every harvester in this sector is destroyed. We are pursuing them to their origin point. That could be light years away. Your fleet is badly damaged. You have achieved your objective." Peterson's expression did not change. "Our objective was not to save one planet, Chancellor. It was to eliminate the threat permanently. The harvesters will regroup and attack again if we let them escape. That is not acceptable. You cannot chase them across the galaxy," Vrim protested. "Your ships are falling apart. Then they will fall apart while killing harvesters. This is not a negotiation, Chancellor. All Council vessels have 72 hours to clear the projected pursuit path. After that, we will not be responsible for any ship that gets in our way." The transmission ended. Trell looked at the tactical display and felt something cold settle in his chest. The human fleet was already moving, following the retreating harvesters into deep space. Ships that could barely fly were limping after an enemy that had terrorized the entire galaxy. "They're going to die," Quinn said quietly. "Even if they win every battle, their casualties will be total." "I know," Trell said, "and I do not think they care." He pulled up the restricted files again, reading deeper into Earth's military history. There were accounts of battles where humans fought to the last soldier. Records of pilots who crashed their damaged planes into enemy targets rather than retreat. Stories of cities that chose destruction over surrender. One phrase appeared repeatedly in their military documents. Trell translated it carefully, wanting to understand the exact meaning. No quarter asked, none given. It meant that humans expected no mercy in war and offered none in return. When they committed to fighting, they committed completely. There was no middle ground, no negotiation, no compromise. Only total victory or total destruction. Chancellor Vrim was reading over his shoulder. "What kind of species thinks this way?" "A species that survived in a universe that showed them no mercy," Trell said. "Earth is a death world, Chancellor. Their planet tried to kill them with ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, and they survived all of it. Then they tried to kill each other and survived that too. They learned that hesitation means death and mercy is a luxury they cannot afford. Then we have made a terrible mistake," Vrim said slowly. "We called for help from a species that does not know how to fight anyway except total war." Trell watched the human fleet disappear into the darkness of deep space, chasing an enemy that would not stop until it was completely destroyed. "Yes," he agreed, "but we also showed the galaxy what happens when you threaten a human-protected world. The harvesters thought they were apex predators. They just discovered they are prey. The last human ship vanished from sensors. Praxis 7 was safe. 3 billion lives saved. But Trell knew the real battle was just beginning, somewhere out in the dark between the stars where Earth's fleet hunted its enemy, without mercy and without end. 3 weeks passed. The Council lost track of Earth's fleet after the fifth system. Long-range probes detected battle signatures across neutral space, brief flashes of violence that ended as quickly as they began. Each time, the harvesters retreated further. Each time, the humans followed. Trell spent those weeks preparing a report that no one wanted to hear. The Council had convened to discuss what they were calling the human question. Half the representatives wanted to honor Earth's sacrifice. The other half wanted to contain them before they turned their weapons on civilized space. They saved 17 billion lives across 6 worlds, Representative Quinn argued. Without them, the harvesters would have consumed everything between here and the galactic rim. And now we have battle-hardened warships with no oversight pursuing an enemy across uncharted space, countered Ambassador Roth, whose species prided themselves on careful diplomacy. What happens when they run out of harvesters to fight? Do they simply turn around and go home peacefully? Chancellor Vrim looked older than Trell had ever seen him. "Trell, you have studied the humans more than anyone. What is your assessment?" Trell activated his presentation, and the room's holographic displays lit up with data. "I have analyzed every military engagement in human history that we have records of. There is a pattern. Humans do not start wars lightly. But once committed, they fight them to absolute conclusion." "Meaning what exactly?" Roth asked. "Meaning they will pursue the harvesters to the source. They will find where these machines come from, and they will destroy it completely. There will be no negotiation, no containment strategy, no peaceful resolution. The threat will be eliminated or the human fleet will be eliminated trying." "That is insane," Roth said. "No rational species commits to total warfare over someone else's problem." "Earth does not see this as someone else's problem anymore," Trell explained. "I found references to something they call total conviction. It is a military doctrine. Once humans identify a threat to the galaxy, they treat it as a threat to themselves. Because in their experience, threats do not stop at borders. They spread. They grow. They must be stopped at the root." He pulled up more data. "Look at this. Earth's home system has 47 colony worlds. Do you know how many of those colonies ask for Council protection? Zero. They have their own defensive fleets, their own weapon platforms, their own contingency plans, because they do not trust anyone else to protect them. Can we blame them? Quinn asked softly. We failed against the harvesters. They succeeded. At tremendous cost, Vrim pointed out. Our intelligence suggests they lost over 60% of the fleet they sent. That is unacceptable by any military standard. By Council military standards, Trell corrected. By human standards, any victory where civilians survive is acceptable. They have a saying, the mission matters more than the soldier. They teach this to every person who joins their military. Your life is worth less than the objective. The room fell silent. Finally, Roth spoke. Then we're discussing a species with fundamentally different values than the rest of the Council. They value victory over survival, aggression over defense, offense over caution. These are not traits we want in an unsupervised military power. And yet they saved us, Quinn countered. While we debated and retreated, they acted. A priority alert interrupted the argument. The sensor technician spoke urgently into the Council chamber. Sirs, we are detecting massive energy signatures in deep space. Grid reference Theta 7. Beyond charted territory. Trell felt his stomach drop. Theta 7 was the last known vector of the Harvester retreat. What kind of energy signatures? Unknown origin. But the scale is enormous. Whatever is out there, it is larger than anything we have encountered before. Vrim ordered visual confirmation. The long-range telescopes took minutes to focus. When the image appeared, everyone in the chamber understood what the humans had found. It hung in space like a metal moon orbiting a dead star. The construct was ancient, covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at for too long. Docking ports by the thousands covered its surface, and from each port, Harvester drones emerged in an endless stream. This was not a forward base or a staging ground. It was the factory, the source of the entire Harvester swarm. How long has this been building machines? Quinn whispered. Based on the degradation patterns, the technician said at least 10,000 years. Maybe longer. 10,000 years of producing harvesters, Roth said. There could be millions of those machines in storage. Tens of millions. The fleet we faced was just a scouting force. Trell was already running calculations. If this factory continues operation, it could build enough harvesters to sterilize every inhabited world in the galaxy within a century. This is not just a threat to the Council. This is an extinction-level danger to all organic life. Where is the human fleet? Vrim demanded. The technician checked the sensors. Surrounding the construct, Chancellor. All 180 remaining ships. They are positioning themselves in a sphere formation. 180 ships versus millions of harvesters, Roth said. They cannot possibly think they can win this. But Trell was watching the tactical display more carefully. The humans were not attacking. They were calculating, running scans, measuring. They are planning something. Look at their positions. They are not forming an assault pattern. This is a containment formation. A new transmission arrived from Admiral Peterson. Her image showed a woman who had not slept in days. Burns covered half her face from some battle injury, and her uniform was stained with blood and soot. Council vessels, you need to clear this entire sector. Minimum safe distance is 20 light years. Admiral, what are you planning? Vrim asked. The factory has mass equivalent to a small moon. It orbits a dead star with approximately 1.4 solar masses. If we destabilize the star's gravitational equilibrium, it will collapse into a black hole. The factory will be consumed completely. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Trell heard Roth shouting about violating galactic stability treaties. Quinn was demanding clarification on civilian impact. Others were calling for immediate intervention, but Trell just stared at the display, watching the human fleet deploy strange equipment around the dead star. They were going to do it. They were actually going to collapse a star to destroy the Harvester factory. And they did not care what the council thought about it. Admiral, you cannot, Vrim said desperately. Creating a black hole could destabilize this entire region of space. The gravitational effects could reach inhabited systems. We ran the calculations, Peterson said flatly. Acceptable risk compared to leaving the factory operational. You have 72 hours to evacuate any at-risk populations. After that, we execute. This is not a negotiation, Chancellor. This is a notification. The threat ends here. The transmission cut out. Trell watched the human ships work with mechanical efficiency, setting up their star-killing weapon. 180 vessels, carrying perhaps 30,000 humans total, about to commit an act that would reshape local space for millennia. They're going to do it, Quinn said. Even if we order them to stop, they will do it anyway. Yes, Trell agreed. Because that is what humans do. When they identify a threat, they remove it. Completely. No matter the cost. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Trell wondered what would happen the day humans decided the council itself was a threat. Trell made a decision that would likely end his career. He took a small observation vessel and traveled to the edge of the exclusion zone, close enough to witness what the humans were about to do. If this went wrong, the council needed an accurate record. And if it went right, the galaxy needed to understand exactly what Earth was capable of. The human fleet worked with brutal efficiency. They had deployed devices around the dying star, machines that bent space itself in ways that made Trell's head hurt to look at. The science was beyond anything the council had developed. Or rather, beyond anything the council had been willing to develop. They're using exotic matter, Trell's science officer said, her voice filled with awe and horror. Negative energy densities. We theorized this was possible, but the power requirements are enormous. And the risk of destabilizing local space-time is extremely high. Humans do not seem concerned with risk. Trell observed he had been monitoring their communications. The human crews worked with calm precision, following orders that would likely kill them all. There was no panic, no hesitation. They spoke about collapsing a star the way council workers might discuss a construction project. Peterson to all units. Final equipment check in 30 minutes. Once we activate, there is no abort. Anyone having second thoughts should speak now. Silence on all channels. Good. Remember, we are not just fighting for the council. We are not even fighting for Earth. We are fighting to make sure nothing like the Harvesters ever threatens organic life again. What we do here today will echo for 1,000 years. Make it count. Trell watched the tactical display as human ships began moving into final positions. They were not all staying at safe distance. 90 ships positioned themselves around the Harvester factory, creating a physical blockade. Even as the star began its collapse, those ships would remain, ensuring not a single Harvester escaped. They are going to die, the science officer whispered. Oh, 90 crews. They know it, and they are doing it anyway. Because that is the mission, Trell said quietly. And the mission matters more than the soldier. The Harvesters had detected the human activity. Millions of drones poured from the factory, a swarm so dense it looked like a solid cloud of metal. They threw themselves at the human blockade with mechanical fury. Energy weapons, kinetic impactors, radiation beams, everything in their arsenal. The human ships absorbed the punishment. Their thick armor held against the onslaught. They did not fire back much, conserving ammunition and power for what was coming. They just held position, shields of flesh and metal between the factory and escape. Trell watched one destroyer get torn apart by focused Harvester fire. The hull split open, venting atmosphere and debris. But the ship did not move. Its remaining crew kept it in position even as they died, maintaining the blockade until the vessel finally broke apart completely. Another ship lost its entire front section to a Harvester ram attack. The rear half continued fighting, using its reactor as a weapon, deliberately overloading it to damage nearby drones. Admiral Peterson to all units. Activating exotic matter generators. 60 seconds to point of no return. The devices around the dead star began to glow with light that should not exist. Trell's instruments screamed warnings as space-time itself started to bend. The star's remaining mass was being compressed, forced inward by artificial gravity wells that violated every natural law. 40 seconds. All non-essential personnel to escape pods. Admiral, This is Captain Rodriguez on the Relentless. We are not abandoning our posts. Captain, your ship is badly damaged. You have done enough. With respect, Admiral, we will see this through. Understood, Captain. Godspeed. Trell understood then. The humans in the blockade fleet had volunteered for this. They knew from the start they would not survive. And they had chosen to stay anyway, because letting even one harvester escape was unacceptable. 20 seconds. For those about to die, humanity thanks you. You will not be forgotten. The exotic matter generators reached critical output. Space itself began to tear. The dead star's core, already dense beyond measure, started collapsing further. The gravitational pull increased exponentially, dragging everything nearby toward a single point. The harvester factory tried to break orbit. Its ancient engines fired desperately, but it was too late. The forming black hole's gravity was inescapable. The construct that had built death machines for 10,000 years began to stretch, its metal skin tearing as tidal forces pulled it apart. The 90 human ships in the blockade fleet were caught in the same pull. One by one, they were dragged toward the event horizon. Trell watched their final transmissions, brief messages to loved ones on Earth, declarations of purpose, statements of pride in the mission. Worth it, one captain said simply as his ship crossed the point of no return. The black hole stabilized. In a space of 5 minutes, the Harvester factory and 90 human warships had been consumed completely. Nothing remained but curved space-time and radiation. Trell's instruments detected something else. A shock wave traveling outward from the collapse. Not a physical wave, but a gravitational one, rippling through space-time itself. It would be detectable by every species with advanced sensors. They wanted us to see this, the science officer said. The gravitational signature will be visible across half the galaxy. Yes, Trell agreed. They wanted everyone to know what they did here, what they are willing to do. Admiral Peterson's flagship approached Trell's observation vessel. The human warship was barely functional, held together by emergency patches and determination. Peterson herself appeared on the communication channel. Half her face was bandaged, and her arm was in a sling. Ambassador Trell, you stay to watch. I needed to understand, Trell said. And do you? Do you understand what we are? Trell chose his words carefully. You're a species that fights total wars. That commits completely to victory. That values the mission above individual survival. You're the most dangerous military force in the galaxy because you do not fear death more than you fear failure. Peterson nodded slowly. We are what the universe made us. Earth taught us that mercy is a gift we give ourselves, not our enemies. Compassion is earned, not freely given. And threats must be eliminated at the root, not managed or contained. Do you think the Council can accept that? I think the Council has no choice, Trell said honestly. You have proven that when the galaxy faces extinction, civilized warfare is not enough. Sometimes you need warriors willing to die to win. Then we understand each other. Peterson looked tired, older than her years. The remaining fleet will return to Council space. We need repairs and resupply. But Ambassador, you need to make the Council understand something. We did not do this for glory or gratitude. We did this because it needed to be done. And if another threat, like the Harvesters, appears, we will do it again, no matter what the Council thinks about our methods. The transmission ended. Trell watched the human fleet limp away toward home, leaving behind a black hole monument to human determination. 90 ships and 30,000 lives traded for the complete elimination of an existential threat. The galaxy would remember this day, the day humanity showed them that some species do not just survive in a hostile universe. They fight back with everything they have, holding nothing in reserve, asking no quarter and giving none. And they win, no matter the cost. The Council chamber had never been so divided. For 3 days, representatives argued about what to do with Earth. The human fleet had returned to the border of Council space and waited there, making no demands, issuing no threats, just waiting for a decision. Trell stood at the central podium, exhausted but determined. He had spent those 3 days preparing the most important presentation of his life. The fate of human-council relations rested on what happened in the next hour. The question before us is simple. He began. Can we trust humanity? Can we integrate a species that fights total wars into our peaceful alliance? Can we share the galaxy with warriors who will collapse stars to eliminate threats? The answer is no, Ambassador Roth declared. They are too dangerous. Today they saved us. Tomorrow they might decide we are the threat. We should quarantine human space and restrict their expansion. And how would you enforce that? Representative Quinn asked. With what military force? Our fleets could not stop the harvesters. Do you think they could stop humanity if Earth decided to ignore our quarantine? That is exactly my point, Roth shot back. We are discussing a species we cannot control. That alone makes them dangerous. Chancellor Vrim raised a hand for silence. Trell, you have studied humans more than anyone. Give us your honest assessment. Are they a threat to the Council? Trell pulled up his final data compilation. Yes and no. Humans are capable of extreme violence. Their military doctrine accepts casualties that would horrify any other species. They fight wars without mercy or restraint. In those ways, they are absolutely a threat. Then we agree, Roth said. I was not finished. Trell advanced to the next slide. But humans also have strict rules about when they fight. I analyzed every military action in their recorded history. Earth has never started a war of aggression since joining the Council. Every conflict they engaged in was defensive or in response to an attack on allies. They do not conquer. They protect. They collapsed a star, someone called out from the gallery, to eliminate an existential threat to all organic life, Trell countered. Not for territory, not for resources, not for power. They did it because it needed to be done, and no one else was willing to do it. He pulled up casualty figures. Earth lost 250 ships in the Harvester campaign. That is 73% of the fleet they sent. Over 90,000 humans died protecting Council worlds. They asked for nothing in return. No territory, no tribute, no special treatment. They simply did what they saw as necessary. Because they are insane, Roth muttered. No, Trell said firmly. Because they understand something we have forgotten. The universe is not inherently peaceful. Threats exist. Real threats that will not stop because we wish them to. The Harvesters prove that. They consumed 17 worlds before Earth intervened. How many more would have died if humans had not acted? The chamber fell quiet. Quinn stood slowly. I represent one of those saved worlds. 3 billion of my people are alive because humans were willing to die for strangers. I will not vote to quarantine our saviors. Other representatives from rescued worlds added their support. The vote was becoming less certain that a priority communication interrupted the proceedings. Admiral Peterson was requesting permission to address the Council directly. Vrim hesitated, then granted it. The human admiral appeared on the main display. She looked better than the last time Trell had seen her, though new scars marked her face. Council members, I understand you are debating Earth's role in the galaxy. I want to make our position clear so there is no misunderstanding. Please proceed, Admiral, Vrim said. Earth does not seek to join your council as a subordinate member. We will not accept restrictions on our military capabilities or oversight on our defensive strategies. We protect our own, using our own methods. This is not negotiable. Roth stood angrily. Then you admit you will not follow council authority. We will respect council authority in matters of trade, diplomacy, and civil law, Peterson replied calmly. But in matters of military defense, we answer only to Earth. Because when the next threat appears, and there will be a next threat, the council will debate and discuss and form committees. And while you do that, people will die. We will not allow that. So you appoint yourselves as the galaxy's protectors. Vrim asked. No, we appoint ourselves as Earth's protectors. But when threats appear to the galaxy, they are threats to Earth as well. We do not fight for you, Chancellor. We fight because we refuse to live in a universe where mechanical swarms can consume worlds unopposed. We fight because that is what Earth does. We survive. Trell spoke up. Admiral, what would you do if the Council voted to quarantine human space? Peterson met his eyes directly. We would ignore it. We would continue building our fleets, defending our colonies, and protecting any world that requested our aid. The Council cannot stop us, so the Council needs to decide if they want us as allies or as a completely independent power that happens to share the same galaxy. That is effectively a threat, Roth said. No, Peterson corrective. It is a fact. We are not asking for permission to exist. We are offering partnership. Earth will defend Council worlds from external threats. In exchange, the Council grants us full military autonomy and equal standing in all political matters. This is not surrender on your part. It is recognition of reality. Vrim looked around the chamber. The Council will vote. All in favor of full integration with Earth, granting them military protectorate status with complete autonomy in defense matters. Trell voted yes immediately. Quinn and the other saved worlds followed. Slowly, reluctantly, others added their votes. Even some who had opposed humanity earlier recognized the truth. They needed Earth more than Earth needed them. The vote passed with 63% approval. Earth is hereby recognized as a full military protectorate of the Galactic Council, Vrim announced. May we never regret this decision. Peterson nodded once. You will not regret it, Chancellor, because the next time something threatens this galaxy, you will not have to face it alone. Humanity stands ready. 2 months later, Trell visited Earth for the first time. He wanted to see the world that produced such warriors. What he found surprised him. Earth was beautiful. Blue oceans, green forests, cities that blended technology with nature. Children played in parks. Artists created masterpieces. Scientists pursued knowledge. It looked nothing like a warrior culture. Admiral Peterson met him at the spaceport. She was in civilian clothes, one arm still in a healing sleeve from her injuries. You seem surprised, she said, watching his reaction. I expected something more militant, Trell admitted. This is why we fight, Peterson said simply. So that children can play without fear. So that artists can create. So that scientists can pursue knowledge instead of weapons. We are not a warrior species because we love war, Ambassador. We are warriors because we love peace enough to kill for it. She took him to a memorial. Names covered a wall that stretched for kilometers. Every human who had died in the Harvester campaign was listed there. 90,000 names, each one representing someone who had chosen duty over survival. We remember them, Peterson said quietly. Every single one. And we teach our children that peace is not free. It requires people willing to stand between the innocent and the dark. That is Earth's gift to the galaxy. We will be those people. We will stand in the dark, and we will not break. Trell understood then. The galaxy had called for aid, expecting charity or sympathy or noble sacrifice. Earth had sent something else entirely. They had sent a warning written in collapsed stars and destroyed fleets. The warning was simple. The universe has predators. But now it also has humanity. And humanity is the apex predator that hunts other predators. Not for glory or conquest, but because that is what must be done. The Council had wanted saviors. They got guardians instead. Brutal, uncompromising, absolutely effective guardians who would defend the galaxy with the same ferocity they had defended their own world for millions of years. And any threat that came for Council space would learn what the Harvesters learned. That some species do not negotiate with extinction. They eliminate it completely, regardless of cost. That was Earth's final warning. And the galaxy would never forget it.